So if you clicked on this video, I'm pretty sure you're going to be affected. It's gas prices. And even if you don't own a car, prices on things that you buy is going to go up as well. I mean, holy crap, Vancouver's at 214. But I'm going to show a report from CBC that talks about all of this. And they give a few examples of things that we don't even think about that are going to go up in price. But not only that, another video is showing how Southeast Asia and South Asia are handling the current, oil situation, I guess. But I know many of us want to travel. I mean, I do as well. But it might be harder or more expensive for us to do so in the future. One of our Canadian airlines might be reducing regional flights, and the other one, they're going to increase prices. But if anyone thinks this is going to end anytime soon, I really hate to burst your bubble because it's not going to end anytime soon. Because the Orange guys decided to send over 3 more warships to the Middle East, and quite frankly, possibly boots on the ground as well. So let's get started, and I'll start off with a report about the gas situation.
Tony Power will burn a lot of gas getting from Newfoundland to Texas.
I'm fairly light, so hopefully I'll get good fuel mileage and keep my costs down.
Overnight, the price of diesel jumped almost 5 cents. Since January, it's up about 70 cents. On a trip to Ontario, that's an extra $1,000 of fuel for his truck.
Transport companies can't pass on all the fuel costs because they refuse to pay it. A lot of companies refuse to pay.
Gas prices are now above $1.60 most places across the country. In Toronto, it's $1.71, about 15 cents more in Montreal, and drivers in Vancouver are now paying well over $2 a litre.
Now, in my group chats with my friends, gas is definitely a hot topic right now. In fact, they can't shut up about it. But what I'm starting to notice among my friends is that they're talking about other things that are starting to go up in price. Some are talking about their work stuff, their shipping stuff is costing more. And another friend who owns a business is saying that his materials jumped up in price as well. So this has a domino effect everywhere.
I'm not thrilled, let's put it that way.
For people who drive for work, it's getting expensive.
I have a fleet of vehicles, so the cost of gasoline has put my fleet cost for fuel up probably by a couple of $1,000s over the last 2 months.
The last time gas prices were this high was just 2 years ago. But what's unusual this time is just how quickly the prices climbed.
Now, I'm not an economics person, but with gas prices going up, everything else is going up, especially if it has to do with logistics or, shipping or anything that has to do or needs oil. But my question is, eventually things will start to go down in price. I mean, it could take a couple weeks, it could take a couple months, could take a year, I don't know. But when things start to really kind of settle down when it comes to the gas prices, are shipping costs going to come down? Are grocery prices going to come down? Is everyday things that we buy going to go back down in price? I don't know why, but my gut is telling me no.
This Edmonton charity that delivers meals to seniors is feeling the pinch. Not just for the cost of fuel, but even getting their garbage picked up is costing more.
It's not just that kind of direct buying the gas at the pump, but all of those other vendors and partners that also are being impacted by those costs that end up trickling down to us as well.
The jump driven by the war in the Middle East, blocking shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. About 20% of the world's oil can't get to market, and now both sides are targeting energy infrastructure.
The risk is that even if we're able to restore the traffic through Hormuz and get those barrels and LNG tankers working again, the damages will be longer lasting.
Gas prices jumped quickly as the war escalated, but if there's a ceasefire or ships start moving again, they should be just as quick to drop.
Now, I'm pretty confident gas prices will go down if there's a ceasefire and everything settles down. But what worries me is everything else. Companies are boosting up their price because they have to pay for the extra fuel. But I just question whether or not these companies will reduce their prices once things settle down. Now, I have a video here that shows what's happening in Southeast Asia as well as South Asia. I've been so focused on North America that to be honest, I haven't really been paying attention what's going on here. But before I start, I would like to give a shout out, and I know I'm going to butcher this Discord name, but I would like to give a shout out to Concombre Masque, who posted this photo on our Discord server from Mount Orford Provincial Park in Quebec. I don't think I've ever featured a photo from this provincial park before, so I really want to thank you for posting this in the Discord server and sharing it with the community. Now let me show you what's going on in South Asia as well as Southeast Asia.
only 20 days into the Iran war, the world is already at the verge of total collapse. In Thailand, the Prime Minister has ordered civil servants to conserve energy by suspending overseas trips and using stairs instead of elevators. Vietnam has only energy reserves for up to 20 days, so it encourages employees to work from home. Gas stations in Hanoi are extremely crowded, with people queuing to buy petrol, and some are not even allowed to fill their tanks completely. Bangladesh relies on imports for 95% of their energy needs, so it has now shut down all universities across the country starting Monday. The most extreme case is India, where crematoriums are being forced to switch to wood because there is not enough gas to cremate bodies. What we are seeing essentially is an early sign of the world splitting into two types. One group have diversified its energy and achieved energy independence, whereas the other remains dependent on energy imports, lacking the ability to break free from fossil fuel, and eventually left vulnerable in global disruptions. Do you think your country is prepared for this?
Now, that is a very good question. But we are seeing some countries in South Asia and Southeast Asia who may not have the stockpile reserves that other countries might have. Now, here in Malaysia, my wife and I don't have a car. We just use the e-hailing app. So I don't have to fill up on gas. But I am noticing that the app is starting to cost a bit more if we want to go somewhere. But not only that, flight prices, if we want to go to, say, Singapore or Thailand or something like that, are starting to creep up in price as well. But if you're watching from a country where your country has managed its oil properly and does have reserves, then I would say be thankful that your country prepared for this, because there are other countries that are not as fortunate. Now, of course, we want this all to end, but I have a feeling the longer this goes on, we are going to be hearing more stories about this and what countries and their citizens are going to have to sacrifice to conserve oil. Now, I want to go back to the airline topic, because this report from CTV kind of explains what we have to look forward to. Now, I'm not very impressed with this report, but I think you'll see why.
For Canadians trying to escape a never-ending winter with a trip down south, it's been an unusual year. Global instability has meant fewer options and sky-high prices. For more on this, let's bring in CTV's Kamal Karamali live for us in the national newsroom. Good morning, Kamal. How is the global conflict changing travel for Canadians during the March break?
Hey, good morning, Renee. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but travel agents say that they are seeing about a 20 to 30% increase in the price of domestic and international flights already as a result of this ongoing global conflict. And they're also saying that that is expected to just get worse and increase over time as well. They don't see it coming back down anytime soon based off of the back and forth between Iran, Israel, and the U.S. So the average price of jet fuel has climbed, the most recent week showing $175 U.S. per barrel. Compare that to just $99 a barrel before the war between Iran, Israel, and the U.S. began, and that is according to the International Air Transit Association.
Now, I want to stop here and show you a website that shows the current spot price of jet fuel. And I have to thank YUL Spotter for this, our aviation guru here on the channel. Any sort of airline or aviation questions I have, I always go to him. But you can see from this chart, starting from, what is it, March 3rd, yeah, about March 3rd, it starts to go up significantly. And even from yesterday, I mean, if I look at yesterday's price, it was $4.26. So it jumped up quite a bit already. Now, how high is this going to go? I have no clue. I guess it really depends on how many more stupid things the orange guy does. But if you want to keep an eye on this website and also the jet fuel prices, I will leave a link in the description below for you.
As we talked about off the top, this is all stemming from this ongoing global conflict, the war impacting major oil-producing nations like Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and there have also been attacks on commercial ships. You brought up the Strait of Hormuz, which carries roughly 20% of the world's oil supply. And airline companies say they are making changes to adapt. Air Canada has already said that it has adjusted its fares to account for jet fuel increases, but it's also saying it's considering cutting regional routes in order to save money. WestJet, meanwhile, said it's likely further pricing adjustments may be needed. So all of that to say, Renee, that the worst may be yet to come.
Now, Kamal, the low Canadian dollar also has Canadians choosing to stay local.
Yeah, it's not just the war that is affecting Canadians' decisions on what they chose to do this March break and what they might do leading up to the summer months. You know, a lot of people are buying those flights and those tickets for June, July, and August. Well, the exchange rate also having an impact for the Canadian dollar. That has hovered around 73 cents Canadian against the U.S. dollar since 2023. And
Now, this is why I don't like this report, and the reporter even said it himself. The loonie has been sitting around at 73 cents since 2023, and in 2023 and 2024, we were still going to the United States. I know I was, but what changed? Well, the orange guy.
There are travel agents saying that they're seeing more Canadians interested in traveling to Japan because of how strong the loonie is compared to the yen. But there's been a lot of avoidance going down south to the U.S., not just because of the ongoing patriotism, but also just because of the weak Canadian dollar compared to the U.S. dollar. And we know what's happening in Cuba with the energy crisis there because of the ongoing conflicts as well. So they're seeing a surge. Travel agents are seeing a surge in the other Caribbean islands, and that's also boosting prices in places like Jamaica. So we're seeing just a ripple effect take place with people avoiding places like Cuba, but also going to places like Jamaica.
Interesting. All right, thanks for this.
Now, Canadians want to travel. I have a friend in Japan right now, and he's having a blast. And all we're getting in our group chats is food pictures. Seems like all he's doing over there is eating. But what really irks me is when these reports on both sides of the border are using an exchange rate as an excuse. I mean, this guy kind of contradicts himself. First, he says that the exchange rate has been the same since 2023, and then he says we're not going because of the exchange rate. Well, we were still traveling to the United States in 2023 and 2024, but now suddenly we're not, and it's still the exchange rate as an excuse. This guy needs to open his ears and actually listen to what Canadians are complaining about. But I guess there is a narrative that they have to go by, and it's unfortunate that some Canadians are actually going to believe it. Now, many of us are going to be asking, how long is this conflict going to be lasting? I mean, we want cheaper gas prices, we want everything to go back to normal. Unfortunately, the orange guy has moved in 3 warships into the region, and I don't think this is going to end anytime soon. Now, this report is a little bit longer, and you can hear my cat. I think she wants to get some attention and stuff. So I'm going to have to cut this one a little bit short. But I do want to show parts of it, and they're going to give some updates on why these 3 warships are going into the region.
Well, Arthi, as you mentioned, U.S. media reporting that the Pentagon is sending these 3 additional warships as well as additional Marines to the Middle East, 3 weeks ahead of when they were originally scheduled. Now, the Marines are reportedly from the USS Boxer Amphibious Ready Group that's based in California, and the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit. Now, this comes just a day after President Donald Trump said he would not be sending troops into Iran. Let's take a listen to President Trump speaking alongside the Japanese Prime Minister just yesterday.
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you, but I'm not putting troops.
Now, this guy sounds like a toddler, and not because I changed his voice, because of everything he says. I have friends who have kids in elementary school that act more mature than this guy. But one thing we do know is that anything that comes out of his mouth is going to be complete bullshit.
Arthi, it's important to note here that obviously there is a big difference between repositioning troops to the region and actually putting boots on the ground in Iran. But it portends a conflict that could last longer than the U.S. had originally anticipated. And that has now, as you mentioned, stretched into a 4th week. The CBC has reached out to the Pentagon, and we are waiting to hear back from them.
And Willie, of course, reports of this deployment come as the U.S. president continues to blast NATO allies as well for not getting involved in this war. What is he saying now?
That's right. NATO has really drawn much of Trump's ire in recent days. He's repeatedly expressed frustration over NATO countries' reluctance to provide help in keeping the Strait of Hormuz open, which of course has really become a focal point of this conflict. And he once again lambasted the alliance on social media. He said, quote, "Without the USA, NATO is a paper tiger. They didn't want to join the fight to stop a nuclear-powered Iran. Now that fight is militarily won with very little danger for them. They complain about the high oil prices they are forced to pay, but don't want to help open the Strait of Hormuz, a simple military maneuver that is the single reason for the high oil prices, so easy for them to do with so little risk. Cowards, and we will remember. Arthi, important to note here, though, that of course the U.S. instigated this conflict without advising NATO countries ahead of time, putting them in a really difficult spot. Yesterday, he had an awkward exchange with the Japanese Prime Minister when asked why he didn't notify allies. He said that it was so the secret would not be spilled, so to speak, that they could catch Iran by surprise. He then said that that is something that the Japanese would know well, making a very awkward reference to Pearl Harbor, of course, the deadliest attack on U.S. troops or U.S. citizens until, of course, to September 11th.
Now, I think we need to come to terms that this is not going to end anytime soon, which means that our flight prices, our gasoline, everything that we buy is going to continue going up. Now, I'm really glad that NATO decides that they're not going to help, and I hope it stays that way. But I did just read earlier, but just before I started this video, that the UK is allowing the United States to use their Air Force base. Now, this is totally out of my realm, and I don't know why they did this. But the fact that they did, I mean, you're caving to a baby. And once you give in to one thing, they're going to keep coming after you. But in closing off this video, I hope everything that I talked about shows everyone that the rest of the world has very good reason to be pissed off right now. You saw the measures that they're taking in South Asia and Southeast Asia, and you see our gas prices going up all over the country. Not just our country, but around the world. So what we're going through right now, I know everybody's angry, and we can take this anger out by continuing to avoid the United States. We should not be doing anything violent, hateful, or destructive. Instead, we speak with our money. If you found any value or agree with anything I said, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international perspective without the US media bias, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. That way you're notified of my future videos. And if you want to see more of my videos and probably hear more of my cat meowing, wait for the ones that will show up on your screen shortly. Thanks everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.